देखो, look at the question. The demand function is given by P is equal to 110 minus Q square, and the market equilibrium is attained at P naught is equal to 29 and Q naught is equal to 9. अब डिमांड फंक्शन लीनियर हो या नॉन लीनियर हो, it does not matter. It does not matter to us. So whether my demand function looks like this, चाहे वो ऐसा दिखे, या my demand function looks like this, right, which has a downward part and then an upward part, या my demand function looks like this, कंज्यूमर सरप्लस का जो फॉर्मूला है, वी ऑलरेडी नो दैट, हमें वो पहले से ही पता है कि कंज्यूमर सरप्लस हम कैसे निकालते हैं, and we will go ahead and we will find it in the same way. So what is the definition of consumer surplus? क्या है consumer surplus का definition? Consumer surplus is area below demand curve above price. एरिया बिलो डिमांड कर्व अबव प्राइस को हम कंज्यूमर सरप्लस बोलते हैं. एंड हाउ डू वी गो अहेड एंड हाउ डू वी फाइंड एरिया? एरिया कैसे निकलता है मैथ्स में? हाँ, कोई शेप हो तो हम उसका शेप का एरिया निकाल सकते हैं. इफ इट इज अ ट्राइंगल, हाफ इंटू बेस इंटू हाइट. इफ इट इज अ रेक्टेंगल, लेंथ इंटू ब्रेथ. बट अगर कोई भी शेप गिवन नहीं है, इफ नो शेप इज गिवन, तो वी नो दैट एरिया इज नथिंग बट यू कैन फाइंड इट बाय इंटीग्रेशन. सो एरिया अंडर एनी कर्व, किसी भी कर्व की बात क्यों ना की जाए, द एरिया अंडर एनी कर्व कैन बी फाउंड आउट बाय इंटीग्रेटिंग दैट कर्व, right? So if I have to go ahead and if I have to find area under this curve, suppose forget demand supply whatever, अगर मुझे एक क्वाड्रेटिक फंक्शन के अंडर एरिया निकालना है, so area under the curve, suppose I have to find the area from 0 to 5. So very simple. I will just integrate this curve from 0 to 5 and I will get the area under that curve. है ना? So this is the same thing. So now in this case, what has happened is कि क्योंकि it's a q square, माने it's a quadratic function. So since it's a quadratic function, ऐसा कुछ मेरा डिमांड कर रहा होगा, suppose. ठीक है. एंड इट इज सेइंग दैट आई हैव ऑलरेडी फाउंड आउट, मुझे पहले ही पता है कि जहां पे भी वो सप्लाई कर्व से इंटरसेक्ट हुआ होगा, वॉट एवर माई सप्लाई कर्व वुड हैव बीन, आई डोंट नो व्हाट दैट सप्लाई कर्व इज. वो सप्लाई कर्व ऐसा भी दिख सकता है, वो सप्लाई कर्व ऐसा भी दिख सकता है, वी डोंट नो व्हाट दैट सप्लाई कर्व इज. बट मुझे पता है दैट वेरेवर दैट सप्लाई कर्व वुड हैव इंटरसेक्टेड द डिमांड कर्व, जहां पे भी उसका इंटरसेक्शन हुआ होगा, सो आई नो दैट दैट इक्विलिब्रियम इज 29 and 9. यहां पर आई नो दिस इज 29 एंड आई नो कि दिस इज 9. ये इंफॉर्मेशन मुझे गिवन है, दिस इज व्हाट इज गिवन टू मी. सो नाउ व्हाट इज कंज्यूमर सरप्लस? एरिया बिलो द डिमांड कर्व अबव द प्राइस. यही तो, दिस इज व्हाट द कंज्यूमर सरप्लस इज. सो to find the consumer surplus, what we can do is we can first find the area under the demand curve, complete area under the demand curve. माने हम ये एरिया निकाल सकते हैं, right, by integrating from 0 to the quantity, and then we can subtract this area, and this area will always be a rectangle. ये हमेशा rectangle होगा. So this area will be nothing but this will be price into quantity. So we will subtract the area of price into quantity, right? So if I have to find this area under the demand curve, माने area under demand curve क्या है? Integrate that curve. So I have to integrate the demand curve from 0 to that quantity. And I have to subtract ये rectangle from it. माने I have to subtract price into quantity. What is the equation of the demand curve? अरे वो तो दिया हुआ, that is what is given to you, 110 minus q square. So I will integrate 110 minus Q square. What is the quantity? From 0 to 9 units. Minus, what is the price? 29. What is the quantity? 9. Right? So just solve it. Integration of 110 will be 110 into Q. Integration of Q square will be Q to the power 3 by 3 from 0 to 9 minus 29 into 9, whatever that number is. So 9 into 9 is 81, 8 up. 9 into 2 is 18 and 8, 26. Okay, put the values. 110 into 9 minus 9 to the power 3 by 3 minus 261. Just solve this. Tell me what answer all of you are getting. 990 minus 3 into 9 into 9 minus 261. $486. Okay. So that's the answer to this question. 486 will be the answer. Shaded region. Yes. This is your consumer surplus, this region. बात समझ में? कोई डाउट इसमें? Anyone? Any doubt? Till the equilibrium quantity. Absolutely correct. Because that is where demand would have met supply. माने if you look at the general case that we do linear के साथ, so this is where demand and supply meet. Right? And this is your consumer surplus. Right? So you always input the quantity which is at the equilibrium quantity. It was an unexpected question. माने CUT के लेवल के कंपैरिजन में थोड़ा ऊपर का क्वेश्चन है. This is the formula of consumer surplus in this question. Absolutely, yes. This is the general formula of consumer surplus. Not in this question, in any question. इसमें हम ये फॉलो क्यों नहीं करते? क्योंकि ये एक लीनियर कर्व है तो हमें सीधा एक ट्राइंगल मिल जाता है. बट इसमें भी I can solve it using this formula. Right? So this is the general formula of consumer surplus. Whether it is linear, quadratic, cubic, कुछ भी demand curve क्यों ना हो, you integrate the demand curve and subtract price into quantity. माने you subtract the rectangle जो नीचे बन रहा है. Clear? Okay, so I'll move on to the next question. Question number 2. So let's read it out. Tell me what the answer to this question should be. The Pareto optimal criteria implies fulfillment of the following conditions except तो कौन सा condition fulfill नहीं हो रहा है? The marginal rate of transformation between two goods is equal to MRS between those two goods. So is this correct? Is the first statement correct? It is correct. Yes. So this is a true statement. ये वो statement है बेटा जो तब आती है when we go ahead and when we combine production and consumption. तो जब हम प्रोडक्शन एंड कंजम्पशन को कंबाइन कर देते हैं, when we combine the two, then we go ahead and we get that the marginal rate of transformation which is coming from the production side should be equal to the MRS which is coming from the consumption side. And हमें पता है that at Pareto efficiency the MRS of individual A and the MRS of individual B should be equal. यही है मेरा Pareto efficiency का condition. These two should be equal to each other, right? So that is the correct one. Okay, now look at the second one. The economy is operating in its production possibility frontier. That is also true. again, this is coming from the production side, that whenever the economy will operate, you will always be on your production possibility frontier. माने अगर मुझे economy and consumer को if I have to combine them together also, so this is my production possibility frontier and this is my IC. ठीक है. Sometimes I can also draw a general IC. माने ये मेरा this indifference curve can represent the indifference curve of society as a whole. And we know what this is called. इसको हम social welfare function बोल देते हैं. Right? So when I am taking all individuals, usually what we assume is that the individuals may be the same. ठीक है. तो अगर सपोज मेरे सोसाइटी में देर आर 10 इंडिविजुअल्स एंड ये सारे इंडिविजुअल्स दे आर द सेम, माने इनका यूटिलिटी फंक्शन भी सेम है, इनकी प्रेफरेंसेस एवरीथिंग इज द सेम, देन वी पिक एनी वन इंडिविजुअल एंड वी कॉल दैट इंडिविजुअल एज रिप्रेजेंटेटिव कंज्यूमर. उसको हम रिप्रेजेंटेटिव इंडिविजुअल बोल देते हैं. राइट. एंड हम उसी का यूटिलिटी फंक्शन के साथ वर्क कर लेते हैं. So you would always read the statement, the utility function of the representative individual is. ऐसा हम लिखते हैं. क्यों लिखते हैं ऐसा? Because we assume कि all these individuals are the same. तो किसी एक इंडिविजुअल के साथ when you go ahead and work, when you work with one individual, it's working with the society as a whole. So we take sometimes we take a representative utility function. माने हम ऐसा utility function ले रहे हैं which represents the utility of all. And then we take the production possibility frontier and we work with the tangency. Right? We work with the tangency condition. So production possibility frontier की slope को we can call MRT, marginal rate of transformation. And इसके slope को we can call MRS. Right? So that is condition number 1 जो हमने पढ़ी है. So this is definitely a true statement. Look at the third one. Production technique embody the most efficient technology. Of course, since you are on the production possibility frontier, you are using the most efficient possible, right? Points below PPF, they are inefficient. Above PPF, they are not achievable, not attainable. तो points on the PPF ही तो हैं जो attainable हैं, right? Income is distributed fairly among all individuals. This is very, very important to understand. Very important point. कि why this is false, right? So see, Pareto efficiency does not address fairness or equity of income distribution. Pareto efficiency को in terms से fairness, equity, इन चीजों से कोई लेना देना नहीं है. It has got nothing to do with these terms. और इसको हम कैसे समझ सकते हैं? How we can understand this thing? Just take this Edgeworth box. और यहां पर मुझे एक बात बताओ, इफ आई एम एट ओरिजिन ऑफ इंडिविजुअल ए एंड ओरिजिन ऑफ इंडिविजुअल बी, और हम दोनों इंडिविजुअल को नॉर्मल मानते हैं, माने वी कंसिडर देम एज हैविंग कॉप डॉगलेस प्रेफरेंसेस. हाँ, तो हमने कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर्व कैसा बनाया था? हाउ वाज माय कॉन्ट्रैक्ट कर्व? ऐसा. माने दिस पॉइंट एंड दिस पॉइंट एंड दिस पॉइंट एंड दिस पॉइंट, ये सारे पॉइंट्स पेरेटो एफिशिएंट पॉइंट्स थे. Isn't it? Contract curve was passing from origin of A till origin of B. अब अगर हम origin of A का बात करें, if I talk about this point, तो we notice that A has no consumption of the two goods. क्योंकि हम तो A के origin पर हैं, तो A is not getting anything. A के पास कुछ भी नहीं है. And if I look here, origin of B, then B has no consumption of the two goods. B के पास कुछ नहीं है. Right? So we understand that even though this is very unequal distribution, एंड वी अंडरस्टैंड कि ये भी बहुत अनइक्वल डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन है, ए एंड बी वाला, बिकॉज वी नोटिस कि इस पॉइंट पे एवरीथिंग इज विद इंडिविजुअल ए, विद बी, और यहां पर एवरीथिंग इज विद ए, बी के पास कुछ नहीं है, येट दे आर पेरेटो एफिशिएंट. सो पेरेटो एफिशिएंसी हैज गॉट नथिंग टू डू विद फेयरनेस, नथिंग टू डू विद इक्विटी. इन सबसे मतलब नहीं है. हाँ, द रोल ऑफ गवर्नमेंट इज इंपॉर्टेंट देयर फोर, क्योंकि गवर्नमेंट कैन रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूट इनकम, और वही सेकंड वेलफेयर थ्योरम है कि गवर्नमेंट कैन रीडिस्ट्रीब्यूट द इनकम ऑफ इंडिविजुअल एंड इंश्योर कंपेटिटिव इक्विलिब्रियम कैन बी अटेन्ड एट अ पेरेटो एफिशिएंट पॉइंट, राइट. बट जनरली स्पीकिंग कोई एक पेरेटो एफिशिएंट पॉइंट फेयर हो वो जरूरी नहीं है, वो बहुत अनफेयर डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन हो सकता है, right? So income is distributed fairly among individuals. This is a false statement. Is it clear? So answer will be 4. All of you who are saying 4 is correct. Okay, come to the next question. Question number 3. Look at this. Try to answer this one, all of you. Four. Okay. Are all answers 4 only? ठीक है. So let's see. The export of good of a country G has growth rate of A by T, and its export of service has growth rate of B by T. What is the growth rate of its total export? Very good question. ठीक है. तो हाउ डू वी डिफाइन ग्रोथ रेट? देखो ध्यान से. द ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ एनीथिंग कैन बी डिफाइंड. सो कोई भी एक वेरिएबल ले लेते हैं, ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ वेरिएबल एक्स नॉट. It can be defined as how this variable changes over time divided by the original value of the variable. Can you tell me in the chat कि what is dx not by dt called बेटा? इसको क्या बोलते हैं? Anyone? What is dx not by dt called? अगर मुझे सिर्फ न्यूमरेटर देखना हो तो इसको मैं क्या बोल सकती हूँ? No. Think. Change of variable as time changes, okay, but what is that word called? Marginal change, instantaneous change. Okay. So, I hope, see, this is where it is important that you read Sitter and Hammond completely. क्योंकि वहां पे ये सारे डेफिनेशंस को हम डिटेल में एक बार ही पढ़ते हैं, राइट? So just try to understand. So if I go back to maths, 1 मिनट के लिए थोड़ा देख लेते हैं. The instantaneous rate of change is how fast the function changes at a specific point of time. Okay. So all of you who are saying instantaneous rate of change, that is the correct answer, right? A lot of times, right, you will notice that, so because I am doing dx not by dt, माने I am just finding the derivative of the function, x naught को differentiate ही तो कर रहे हैं with respect to time. So many times the definition of instantaneous rate of change becomes that we are just finding the derivative of a function with respect to time. और जब हम उसको उसका ओरिजिनल वैल्यू से डिवाइड करते हैं तो देन वी गो अहेड एंड वी फाइंड इट्स एवरेज रेट ऑफ चेंज, क्योंकि वी हैव डिवाइडेड इट बाय इट्स ओरिजिनल वैल्यू, राइट. एंड दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट, ये हम इकोनोमेट्रिक्स में बहुत ज्यादा डिफाइन करते हैं दोनों चीजों को. व्हेन वी गो अहेड एंड व्हेन वी स्टडी द चैप्टर ऑफ फंक्शनल फॉर्म्स, ये दो चीजें हम डिफाइन करके चलते हैं. सो ओनली द न्यूमरेटर, all of you who mentioned it as instantaneous rate of change is the correct answer. Okay. So we can say that the growth rate is the average rate of change of a variable. Instantaneous divided by its original value. ठीक है. इसी चीज को, इसी ग्रोथ रेट को we can go ahead and we can also represent this as d ln x naught by dx naught. Sorry, by dt, not x naught. By dt. सो जब हम log of x naught को डिफरेंशिएट करते हैं विद रिस्पेक्ट टू टाइम, बिकॉज हाउ डू वी डिफरेंशिएट log में क्या, व्हाट इज द प्रॉपर्टी ऑफ log, दैट इट विल बी 1 by x naught dx naught by dt, isn't it? So then this will become dx naught by dt by x naught. So we can also rewrite this as this. Okay. Now the question goes ahead and mentions that the growth rate of the goods is a by t, right? And how do we write the growth rate of good? Suppose this growth rate of good, this is a by t, right? And it says that the growth rate of export of service is b by t. So the growth rate of service is b by t. Now it is asking you what is the growth rate of export as a whole. So export will be export of good plus services. Okay, export of good plus services. Now when we go ahead and we want to find the growth rate of export, it will be dx by dt, right? Upon x. ये है growth rate of export. ये value मुझे निकालना है, right? So what I will do is, first, excuse me, I will differentiate this function with respect to t. So I will get dx by dt is equal to dg by dt plus ds by dt, right? Now what I want to do, I want divided by x, because then it will become growth rate of export. So I will divide both left and right side by x. अब ये जो वैल्यू है, this will become growth rate of export. And I can write this as 1 by x dg by dt plus 1 by x ds by dt. ठीक है. I know that the growth rate of only good is given as a by t. माने I know that dg by dt divided by g, सिर्फ ग्रोथ रेट ऑफ गुड्स जो है वो मुझे a by t दिया हुआ है. So I know that dg by dt, if I have to find the numerator, I can take this here. It will go ahead and become a by t into g. Similarly, I can go ahead and I can say here that ds by dt divided by s is b by t. So I can take this here and get ds by dt will be s into b by t. I can just replace this thing here and I can say that this will be 1 by x a by t into g plus 1 by x s into b by t. Okay. So this is how you can go ahead and you can solve this question. Now you can just simplify this. AG plus BS by this. Okay. So this is how this kind of questions can be solved. Is it making sense? Is it clear? Okay. So quickly, all of you solve this question before we move ahead. Y is equal to a x to the power alpha x2 to the power beta. If growth rate of y is 4%, growth rate of x1 is 2%, growth rate of x2 is 1%, alpha equal to beta equal to 0.5, find growth rate of A. Solve it. You can put x as g plus s, correct. It depends on which option you want to choose. Depending on that, whichever is matching, you can simplify accordingly. Correct. Solve this question now. Okay. How about this? Quick. Okay, so let's see. So whenever you're given this kind of Cobb-Douglas function, right, you simply know that the product in terms of growth will convert into addition. Mane growth rate of y will become growth rate of a plus alpha growth rate of x1 plus beta growth rate of x2. Simple. Mane there is no wo ki you can definitely go ahead and you can definitely solve this by taking log, but you should always know this property. Okay. So growth rate of y is 4%, so 0.04. Growth rate of a I don't know. Alpha is 0.5. Growth rate of x1 is 2% and beta is 0.5. Growth rate of x2 is 1%. Just find out GA. So 0.04 minus 0.5, 0.02 minus 0.5, 0.01. Whatever answer you get here, that will be the answer to this question. Okay, fine. So come on, let's go on to the next question. Question number 4. Which of the following statement is not correct? Okay, read out the options. If fx is quasi-concave, then minus fx is quasi-convex. If fx is linear, then it is quasi-concave and quasi-convex. Any concave function is quasi-concave, converse is not true. Any convex function is quasi-convex, but converse also holds. What will be the answer to question number 4? Okay. Okay, yes, all of you who are saying it as 4, that is the correct answer to this question. Correct. So, what is a formal definition of quasi-convex function. I'll take it here. What is a formal definition of quasi-convex function? It says that any function which goes from Rn to R, this function is quasi-convex, right? If the following property is satisfied: f of lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y is less than equal to max fx fy. If this property is satisfied, then the function is called as a quasi-convex function. अब देखो यहां पे lambda x plus 1 minus lambda y माने I am taking a weighted average of x and y. So we are saying कि हमने दो पॉइंट्स लिए, एक पॉइंट x लिया, पॉइंट y लिया, और उनको अलग अलग वेट देके हर पॉसिबल पॉइंट बनाया, right? And we found out the value of that function at every possible point. If that value is less than the maximum of these two, of fx and fy, means all values of the weightage average, they lie less, they lie lower than the maximum of these two, right? So suppose I go ahead and if I say, suppose my function is going like this, right? I have fx here and I have fy here, right? The maximum of fx and fy is fy. I take different combinations of x and y. ठीक है, मैंने यहाँ पे x के कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग फंक्शन का वैल्यू रहा होगा, यहाँ पे y के कॉरेस्पॉन्डिंग फंक्शन का वैल्यू रहा होगा. I take all possible combinations of x and y. All possible combinations. So x and y को मैंने अलग अलग वेटेज देके I found out all the different combinations. And when I found out the value of the function at those points, all those lie lower than this. सब इससे नीचे. All those are lower. Then it is a quasi-convex function, right? So there is another way in which we define it. I hope all of you, literally, I have recorded this in very, very detail. It's, I think, a 1 hour video which only talks about what is quasi-convexity, concavity in much detail. I have taken all possible definitions. Today itself, it is a homework for all of you. If you have not had a look at it, please look at that video lecture. And if you're not able to locate it, post it in the Telegram group today itself. It's a homework for today. But I want you to be very, very aware of all possible definitions of quasi-concavity and quasi-convexity, right? It is in the math section. Okay, so you have to go ahead and tell me if you are not able to have a look at it. I will help you locate it. But I want all of you to do this for today. Okay? All possible definitions have been covered. So what is quasi-convexity? A function is quasi-convex if all its lower contour sets are convex, right? So a lower contour set is all x such that the value of the function is less than equal to some alpha. And if all these are convex, then the function is called quasi-convex. That's the second definition that we have, right? So now, if I go back to this, right, it says which of the following statement is not correct? Any convex function is quasi-convex. It's true. But its converse also holds. That is a false statement. So yes, all of you are correct. The answer will be 4. If you want, I can take 1 day marathon on this topic to make it more clear, right? So we can take probably on Monday a session and we can only do on quasi-concavity and convexity. Okay, okay, take it. We'll take it in detail. The next session after matrix and determinants, we'll take one on this. Okay, done. Okay, next question. Do this one. Let me know the answer to this one. Okay. Assuming that the production function is homogeneous of degree 1. So when I write Q is equal to L to the power alpha, K to the power beta, degree 1 homogeneity means alpha plus beta must have been 1. And the Euler's equation holds true. If marginal product of labor is greater than marginal product of capital, greater than average product of labor, then which of the following will be true? So for this, we can go ahead and we can make a graph probably, right? And we can see first how the functions look. So if I just generally speak of the relation between MPL and APL, if this is my marginal product of labor, this will be my average product of labor, right? This is a general relationship. When my average product of labor is maximum, average product of labor and marginal product of labor become equal to each other. In this region, we notice that the marginal product of labor is greater than average product of labor and average product of labor is increasing. In this region, we notice the marginal product of labor is less than average product of labor and average product of labor is decreasing. Right? This is the general relationship. Now the question is saying that the marginal product of labor is greater than the average product of labor. This, right? The question is asking then which of the following will be true. Now the interesting point here is that it has given a 2 input function, right? It's not a single input function. Whatever I have drawn here, law of diminishing marginal product, this is when we have single input. So I'm going to first look at the single inputs and check if anything of that holds true or not. So we notice that when marginal product of labor is greater than average product, the average product of labor is increasing. And we also notice that the marginal product is positive. So the marginal product of labor is positive. So which means it is not negative. So ये तो incorrect हो गया. This is false. Right? Marginal product of labor negative, ये भी incorrect हो गया. So this is also false. Now I am left up with 2 options, option 2 and 3. So now I need to evaluate what happens to the second input, right? So what we can do is we can go ahead and we can go to Euler's equation because it said that Euler's theorem holds true, equation holds true, right? So for any constant returns to scale production function, constant returns to scale means where I am talking about alpha plus beta 1 is holding true. We know that there is something which is known as product exhaustion theorem. The product exhaustion theorem suggests that whatever our output is, that is completely distributed among labor and capital. माने output will be equal to labor into marginal product of labor plus capital into marginal product of capital, right? So now if I divide by labor on both sides, I will get average product of labor is equal to marginal product of labor plus K by L marginal product of capital. If I can take this here, I will get average product of labor minus marginal product of labor is equal to K by L into marginal product of capital. Now it is given to me that marginal product of labor is more than average product of labor. So it means that if I take this here, average product of labor minus marginal product of labor will be negative. It will be less than 0. So the left hand side of this equation, this is negative. It means the right hand side should also be negative because there is an equal to sign. So this should also be negative. Now capital and labor cannot be negative. ये term तो negative नहीं हो सकता. So to make this term negative, we understand that the marginal product of capital must be negative. Only then the right hand side will become negative. सिर्फ तब वो negative होगी. So the right answer to this question should be that it should be negative. So answer is 3. Correct. All of you who answered it as 3 is the correct answer. Is it clear? Any doubt in this? This is the complete evaluation of this answer. Let me know if there is any doubt. Any doubt, anyone? Okay. Okay. Let's move on to the next question. Try to do that yourself first. Question number 6. Which of the following is incorrect about the problem of externalities? They may be reciprocal or unidirectional. They refer to interdependence between parties that operate outside the price mechanism. They may be marginal or inframarginal. The process of internalization of the negative externality requires both parties must gain. बताओ इनमें से कौन सा आंसर करेक्ट है? Okay, so let's see. First, they may be reciprocal और unidirectional. माने या तो दोनों तरफ से हो सकती है या एक तरफ से हो सकती है. This is true. I'll give you a very simple example to this. Huh? So just imagine that usually it happens on just 31st of December. इसमें बहुत problem रहता है. Just imagine that one of your neighbor is playing very loud music. ठीक है? And that is disturbing you a lot. तो ये तो हो गई unidirectional externality, one directional externality, that they're playing very loud music and it is creating disturbance for you. अब इसका रिवर्स देखते हैं. Let's say that you are doing a party at your house. You are also doing very loud music. Your neighbor is doing a party. They are also doing very loud music. And you are causing disturbance to them. उनको अपना म्यूजिक नहीं सुनाई दे रहा and they are causing disturbance to you. Right? Or just imagine in your house, you are, put in your room and you're playing some movie. And just in the next room, your parents are watching some other show. And you are not able to concentrate on your movie. वहां से आवाज आ रहा है and the other way. So it can be both direction. माने it can be a reciprocal one also. दोनों एक दूसरे को भी disturb कर सकते हैं. Right? So this is correct. इसमें कोई problem नहीं है. This statement is fine. They refer to interdependence between parties that exist outside price mechanism. Yes, that is why it is called a market failure. क्योंकि price mechanism का तो कोई role ही नहीं है. There is no role of price mechanism. Right? So this is also correct. They may be marginal or infra-marginal. ये भी correct है. So if you notice, huh, where do we go ahead and where do we find the solution to externality? We just did in one of the recent marathons. क्या इक्विलिब्रियम कंडीशन रहता है एक्सटर्नैलिटी का? हाँ, सो वी सॉल्व इट where social marginal benefit is equal to social marginal cost, है ना? So माने private marginal benefit plus external benefit is equal to private marginal cost plus external cost, right? Depending on positive या negative externality, both of these can be handled well when we go ahead and when we talk about this formula. माने अगर पॉजिटिव एक्सटर्नैलिटी होगा तो एक्सटर्नल कॉस्ट विल बी जीरो, और अगर नेगेटिव एक्सटर्नैलिटी होगा तो एक्सटर्नल बेनिफिट विल बी जीरो. सो बोथ ऑफ दीज कैन बी वेरी वेल हैंडल्ड थ्रू वन ऑफ दिस one formula. एक ही formula है, but both can be handled. So yes, when we talk about externalities, they can be marginal in nature, right? Marginal in nature माने it can go ahead and it can be defined per unit, राइट? सो फॉर एग्जाम्पल जब हम वो भी करते हैं द पॉल्यूशन एग्जाम्पल, उसमें हम बोलते हैं ना कि पर यूनिट द एक्सटर्नल कॉस्ट इज दिस मच, राइट? सो यस, इट कैन बी मार्जिनल इन नेचर, देयर इज नथिंग इनकरेक्ट अबाउट इट. Now think about inframarginal. So what is inframarginal? Inframarginal refers to any unit, any agent that lies inside the margin, not at the margin, but inside the margin. So marginal होता है the cost of extra one unit, the benefit from extra one unit. और inframarginal होता है all earlier unit. तो हम earlier units का भी तो बता सकते हैं कि what has been the external cost of earlier units, external cost of the external benefit of the earlier units, right? So yes, we can talk about inframarginal also and we can talk about marginal also. Both of them can be told for any externality problem. So this is also correct. इसमें कोई problem नहीं है. This is also the right option. The process of internalization of the negative externality requires that both parties must gain. False. And iska example again is that pollution example. Right? So you remember कि हमने बोला था कि जिसके पास भी property rights होगी, they will be the one who will gain in the process of solving the problem of externality. Right? So we defined the property rights. Internalization basically means how we go ahead and how we resolve the problem of externality by making the problem internal to the organization. ठीक है? जैसे फॉर एग्जाम्पल हम बोलते हैं कि अच्छा ठीक है, अगर ये इंडिविजुअल ए है एंड ही इज कॉजिंग पॉल्यूशन एंड इसकी वजह से इंडिविजुअल बी को फर्क पड़ रहा है, सो यू कंबाइन देम एंड मेक देम इनटू वन कंपनी, मेक देम अ वन फर्म, right? You cause collusion of the firm, right? Yeah, you go ahead and you say कि I am defining property rights and अब से ये जो river है ये firm B को belong करता है. So internalization can be through taxes, it can be through collusion. Basically हम क्या करते हैं, we are trying to resolve the problem of externality. Externality का क्या मतलब है? External, outside, कोई उसको consider नहीं कर रहा है. Internalizing माने we are making them consider the externality. हाँ, so internalization can be done through Pigovian tax. Internalization can be done by combining the firms together, by defining the property rights, जो हम कोस्ट थ्योरम में पढ़ते हैं. So in that both parties may not gain. ठीक है? एक को लॉस होगा, एक को बेनिफिट भी हो सकता है. So the answer to this one is 4. 4 is the incorrect statement. Okay, do this question now. Question number 7. Give it a try. Emission fee cap and trade. Absolutely. That is correct. Go ahead. Give next question a try. Give the answer to this one. Okay, let's solve. The marginal cost curve is given as this, and fixed cost is this. Find the total cost function. Okay, so tell me something. What is total cost? I can say that total variable cost plus total fixed cost will be my total cost function. माने whenever जो भी मैं लिखूं, जो भी मैं total cost function बनाऊंगी, whatever total cost function I will be making, it will definitely have a fixed cost component attached to it. This will definitely happen. Now, what is marginal cost? Marginal cost can be found by differentiating the total cost function as output changes, right? So if I differentiate this will be differentiation of total variable cost plus differentiation of total fixed cost. But fixed cost is fixed. Fixed cost cannot change as output changes. हो तो fixed है, वो कैसे change होगी अगर output change होगा? So माने ये तो zero है. So total, तो ये जो marginal cost है, इसको हम ये भी बोल सकते हैं that it is differentiation of total variable cost with respect to output. So if marginal cost is differentiation of total variable cost with respect to output, then can I go ahead and can I say that total variable cost will be integration of marginal cost? We can go ahead and we can say that, right? So I want all of you to go ahead and to integrate this function. This is one way of doing it. So you integrate. What is your marginal cost, beta? Marginal cost is 2 e to the power 0.2 q dq. Now, 90% of the students, 99% of the students have made this mistake. So I was saying that most of the students make this mistake. And what mistake is that? That you have to understand that when we are integrating this, this integration is not bounded. This integration is not bounded. और इसका क्या मतलब है? इसका मतलब ये है कि when I integrate, so remember, when I integrate x square dx, but there is no lower and upper bound, there is no limit, तो इसका integration will be x cube by 3 plus c. And when I integrate x square, say between 1 to 2, so then this will be x cube by 3 from 1 to 2. It is making sense? Then you put the values directly. So most of the students last year, they did this mistake. And what mistake? कि उन्होंने plus c नहीं किया, right? And therefore their answer was wrong. So let's go ahead and let's try to solve this question correctly. Even now, all of you have answered it incorrectly. तो हम इसको solve करेंगे. So my cost will be integration of this function. What the function is? 2 into e to the power 0.2 q plus fixed cost. When I will integrate this, I will get e to the power 0.2 q divided by 0.2 plus c plus fixed cost, right? Plus C plus fixed cost. Okay. Now, fixed cost का एक property रहता है. And the property of fixed cost is that when output is 0, then my cost is equal to fixed cost. माने cost at 0 units of output is my fixed cost. So we know that when I would plug 0, I should get the answer as 75. When I plug 0, I should get the answer as 75. So ये मेरा total cost function है. I understand this thing. This is my total cost function. Now in this cost function, when I plug 0, I should get the answer as 75. क्योंकि ये fixed cost की property है. Right? So let me plug 0 here. So 2 upon 0.2 e to the power 0.2 into 0 plus some number. ये भी constant है, ये भी constant है. So total constant. This should give me 75. Right? So I will go ahead and I will get 10 e to the power 0 plus C naught is 75. So C naught will come as 65. C naught was this total value. This is 65. So it means my total cost function becomes 10 e to the power 0.2 cube plus 65. This is the answer to this question. So, okay, I'll answer the confusion. देखो क्या किया है. इसके साथ एक कांस्टेंट C आया जब इंटीग्रेट किया और एक फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट वाला कांस्टेंट तो था ही. ठीक है. हमने क्या किया, हमने बोला कि ये कोई एक टोटल कांस्टेंट रहा होगा जिसको मैंने C नॉट नाम दे दिया. ठीक है. मेरा टोटल कॉस्ट फंक्शन ये है जिसमें से मुझे अभी इस पूरी चीज का वैल्यू निकालना है. बट दे हैव टोल्ड मी कि जो हमारा आउटपुट 0 है उस टाइम पे कॉस्ट है वो 75 है. सो आई प्लग्ड आउटपुट एज 0 एंड आई इक्वेटेड इट टू 75. उससे मुझे इस पूरा कांस्टेंट का वैल्यू मिल गया C नॉट का. ये 10 e टू द पावर 0, e टू द पावर 0, एनीथिंग टू द पावर 0 इज 1. सो ये है 10 plus C naught equal to 75. So I got that this C naught is 65. If this is confusing, अगर ये ऐसे confusing लग रहा है तो आप सिंपल सोचो कि जब हम अपने मार्जिनल कॉस्ट को इंटीग्रेट करेंगे तो हमें टोटल कॉस्ट मिलेगा. सिंपल ऐसे सोचो. ठीक है. और मुझे इंटीग्रेट करना है 2 e to the power 0.2 q को टू गेट द टोटल कॉस्ट. जब मैं इसको इंटीग्रेट करती हूं तो मुझे इंटीग्रेट करने के बाद आंसर मिलता है 10 e to the power 0.2 q प्लस c इक्वल टू टोटल कॉस्ट. मुझे इस c का वैल्यू पहले निकालना पड़ेगा. तो देन आई यूज द प्रॉपर्टी कि अच्छा जब आउटपुट 0 है तो टोटल कॉस्ट 75 है. उससे मेरे को ये c का वैल्यू मिल जाएगा. दिस इज व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू डू हियर. Yes, you can do that also. Both are fine. That is what the point is. कि whether you integrate total cost या total variable cost, both are fine. क्योंकि fixed cost का differentiation is 0, right? So that is what we started with. So marginal cost is differentiation of total cost with respect to output, which is nothing but differentiation of this plus this. बट इसका डिफरेंशिएशन जीरो हो जाता है. सो वेदर आई डिफरेंशिएट टोटल कॉस्ट विद रिस्पेक्ट टू आउटपुट या वेरिएबल कॉस्ट विद रिस्पेक्ट टू आउटपुट, बोथ विल गिव मी मार्जिनल कॉस्ट. बोथ आर फाइन, दोनों को ही डिफरेंशिएट करके मार्जिनल कॉस्ट मिल जाता है. यू जस्ट हैव टू रिमेंबर, यहां का ट्रिक क्या है कि जब हम मार्जिनल कॉस्ट को इंटीग्रेट करेंगे तो जो भी आंसर आएगा उसमें प्लस सी लिखना है. दैट इज व्हाट द ट्रिक इज हियर. सिर्फ वो मार्जिनल कॉस्ट को इंटीग्रेट नहीं करना है, यू हैव टू राइट अ प्लस सी टू शो कि एक कांस्टेंट भी इन्वॉल्व होगा. दैट इज व्हाट इज इंपॉर्टेंट. where we subtracted 10, this 10, ये जो 10 है, this goes on the other side, no? I'll do it again. अगर कुछ भी confusion है, let me do it again. So you are given कि एक marginal cost function है. ये marginal cost function आपको दिया हुआ है. I will not introduce अलग अलग C plus FC, ऐसा नहीं करते. So you have a marginal cost function which is 2e to the power 0.2q. Step 1, I am going ahead and integrating this marginal cost function. जब हम इसको integrate करेंगे, I will go ahead and get 2. Integration of e to the power 0.2q will be this as it is divided by जो भी इसका power है उसका coefficient plus c. तो इसका इंटीग्रेशन हमें देगा 10 e to the power 0.2q plus c. टू अवॉइड एनी कंफ्यूजन आप सिंपली समझ लो कि टोटल कॉस्ट कैन बी फाउंड बाय इंटीग्रेटिंग द मार्जिनल कॉस्ट फंक्शन. ये हमारा स्टेप 1 हो गया. स्टेप 2, इट इज गिवन दैट द फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट इज जीरो. माने व्हेन आई पुट क्वांटिटी एज, सॉरी, फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट इज 75. माने व्हेन आई पुट क्वांटिटी एज जीरो, तो उस टाइम पे जो मेरा टोटल कॉस्ट का वैल्यू होगा वो 75 होना चाहिए. क्यों? क्योंकि इट्स अ प्रॉपर्टी that when quantity is zero, then total cost and fixed cost are equal and total variable cost is zero. ये प्रॉपर्टी है, राइट? सो यू रिमेंबर हमने ऐसा डायग्राम बनाया था. दिस वॉज माई टोटल वेरिएबल कॉस्ट, दिस वॉज माई टोटल कॉस्ट एंड ये मेरा फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट था. सो एट दिस पॉइंट जब क्वांटिटी जीरो होता है, सो दीज टू आर इक्वल. टोटल कॉस्ट एंड फिक्स्ड कॉस्ट दे आर इक्वल टू ईच अदर. माने in this function when I will go ahead and I will put quantity as zero, जब मैं यहाँ पे e के साथ I'll plug this as zero, तो मेरे को जो आंसर मिलना चाहिए टोटल कॉस्ट का, that should be same as the fixed cost. I should get this as 75. So I get 75 is equal to 10. E to the power 0 is just 1 plus c. So it means I get 75 is equal to 10 plus c. So I get c as 65. c का वैल्यू 65 आ गया. बस उस c को मैं यहाँ पे प्लग इन कर रही हूँ इन दिस फंक्शन. सो आई गेट 10 e to the power 0.2q plus 65 and this becomes my total cost function. This can be a way to explain this. Tell me if you still have a doubt. Any doubt, anyone? Is it clear? Can I move ahead? Okay, go on to the next question. Which of the following is excluded from headline inflation to arrive at core inflation? Which of the following is excluded from headline inflation to arrive at core inflation? Okay, all of you are correct. That is the correct answer. Answer will be 1. Energy prices. ठीक है. So core inflation में you avoid all volatile components. राइट. 2 volatile components होते हैं. One is food and other is energy. So you avoid these. ठीक है, क्योंकि ये बहुत volatile होते हैं and they do not give you the correct indication about inflation. Therefore core inflation excludes them. वो इनको include नहीं करता है, food and energy prices को. So answer will be 1. Correct. Okay, next. Which of the following is not considered in the calculation of GDP? Yes, all of you are right. तो कभी भी जब हम जीडीपी की बात करते हैं, नो सेकेंड हैंड गुड इज कंसिडर्ड इन जीडीपी. हाँ, ऑल्दो सेकेंड हैंड गुड से रिलेटेड we will go ahead and we will include the services. माने if someone is selling a second hand scooter, ठीक है, बट उसमें किसी को कोई कमीशन दे रहा है, that will be included. But the sale or purchase of second hand good itself will not be included. वो include नहीं होता because those goods were already counted in GDP in the year that they were produced. जिस साल वो प्रोड्यूस हुए होंगे उस साल वो जीडीपी में काउंट हो गए होंगे. They were already counted in GDP in the year that they were produced. Right? So you're right that second hand will not be included. हाँ, C will be included. Brokerage or commission on the purchase of second hand good वो हम include करेंगे. Okay, next question. In the case of classical economics, an increase in nominal money stock causes. Okay, how about others? Increase in nominal stock of money. Increase in the level of output, shift in aggregate demand curve to the left, no change in price level, shift in aggregate demand curve to the right. ठीक है. So according to classical economist, सबसे पहले there is neutrality of money. माने MV is equal to PY को हम लिख सकते हैं GM plus GV is equal to GP plus GY, जिसमें we assume that GV is 0 and GY is also 0. So we assume GM is equal to GP. मतलब growth of money is equal to the growth rate of price, जिसको हम inflation बोलते हैं. So if there is an increase in the money, there should be an increase in the price level. Right? It should increase the price level. So no change in price level is incorrect. And classicals ये भी बोलते थे that we are already at full employment level and there will be no real factor change. तो माने output cannot change. So ये incorrect हो गया. Now we have to think about the AD side. So now when we talk about this AD, ये कौन सा aggregate demand है बेटा? This is the aggregate demand you're getting from the IS and LM equation. So we know that when money increases, the LM curve will shift rightwards. and the AD curve will also shift rightwards. क्योंकि जब मनी ज्यादा होगा इकोनॉमी में, when there will be more money, it should go ahead and increase the demand of the commodities, right? So the LM curve will also shift rightwards and AD curve will also shift rightwards. So we can say that the aggregate demand increases and it shifts rightwards, right? तो basically हम इसको कैसे डिपेक्ट कर सकते हैं? How can we depict this? That there is an aggregate supply curve which is already at full employment level, क्योंकि आउटपुट तो चेंज नहीं हो सकता. दिस इज माई P and Y. This is my aggregate demand. When there will be increase in money, it will increase aggregate demand. Aggregate demand will shift rightwards and we will move from equilibrium point A to B. तो माने there will be increase in price. And price उतने से ही increase होगा. Price will increase by the same amount as the increase in the money. तभी तो neutrality of money आएगा. So both of them will change by the same amount. The growth rate of money and the growth rate of price will be equal. ठीक है? Okay.